Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised by the way it happened, but the results are 100% something I did expect. I did expect Damwon to actually win this one out, but again, the fashion at which I think Damwon was able to completely like capitalize on the mistakes that G2 made were 100% not expected from me. But again, I did think Damwon knows when they get a lead. I don't think that anybody's going to come back from them. But again, G2 gaming when they came into this game, I knew they were going to, but they came into this game or the series specifically with a really good mindset on how to beat Damwon. They came in. The weaknesses of Damwon are actually like obviously skirmishes. They will play the game at at the tempo at which you provide for them. They know they are not fast paced themselves. They're just like really good at reacting to plays other people make, and they will eventually make plays. Obviously, if you don't, but they will kind of stuff out any sort of like competition the enemy team makes because again, the individual talent again that they have on the table is just marginally better than what G2 was able to bring to the table. I think that G2 came into the game in game two specifically. I think they really had a good idea. They came in, they stole the Leona, which obviously was just a very huge factor for Damwon in game one. They were able to take that away and make a lot of plays happen around the map. Like again, we saw I think the biggest problem obviously was the Fiora pick was kind of weird to me. Again, I think that Camille is obviously a go-to if Camille is open, you pick her, and Fiora is a really good counter to that. But I think specifically for that, they don't really look for the like. I kind of think it devolves you into more of a team like a skirmishing ass kind of like playstyle at that point because you really have to react to them. They're able to lock you down on the top lane regardless of whether or not you can stop the E on Camille. They're able to get a lot of plays happening if we see a lot of the attention in game two was focused towards topside. I mean, they rotated around the map a lot. Like Leona came up in like the first 10 minutes of the game, was able to get a lockdown on side of it was maybe not the first 10. I don't remember exactly when, but they were able to get a lockdown on side of Camille on the Fiora with Camille. Camille just ulted on top of her, and again, it's really hard to predict the Camille E because she can actually delay it a little bit, and if you do the W too early, you can't even stop a significant portion of any like at that point in time. If you mistime the W at any point in time, you just die. Like Camille can 100% kill you if you don't have the W up. If you stun her, obviously that's the go-to. But even if you don't stun her, you can still get that attack speed debuff and negate a large portion of her damage if you time it properly against the auto attack. Like all around, I think a big problem for this G2 lineup was just that they were individually outclassed. I mean, Caps 100% getting solo killed against a TF. That doesn't ever happen. TF is not overbearing. Again, he wins the early game against Silas, but like they played this specific matchup up against him in game two is what they won against. Actually, it was Silas versus TF. I mean, this is the exact same matchup that we saw in game two. Somehow flipped on its head. Showmaker completely pulverized him. It was just ridiculous. I think what Caps. I mean, obviously there was a lot of big problems with this. Yeah, I think Perks was the biggest individual outclass, though. I mean, I think a lot of the things we see him eating into the turret or flashing into the turret to try and kill somebody, and it eventually got him killed. Like in game two, when I think they were significantly ahead, like Perks was in there trying to solo kill Ghost, and Ghost was able to kill him inside of his own turret because like Perks doesn't 100% understand. Again, if you have the damage, obviously it makes sense. But I think his approach to the game is not an ADC aspect. It's more so a get a kill aspect. Like he really sees the kills in front of him and knows he has the damage, but doesn't realize the vulnerabilities of like an ADC, and doesn't realize that you can't actually output the damage because you don't have the abilities to outplay somebody as often as like as easily as like a mid laner with kind of like more like engages or something would be able to. It really does seem like he really doesn't fully grasp like ADCs. Like they just all around. I think that he was the biggest problem with this roster. Like I really do think they would have had a lot better of a situation if they had a more like traditional ADC in this roster. But all around, I think what I would do want to give credit to Damwon. I think they when they got a lead, they transitioned into objective control and vision control on the enemy side very often. Like if we see pretty much every single time that they got a lead in the early game, there was attempts to go get vision down on the G2 roster after that. Like I think that the one big thing that I think actually made a huge difference was the failed dive in game 3 against when they actually killed off the support earlier on. They don't actually have a tank to be able to do this. They're all already significantly low, yet that they felt like they needed to go get a kill on him. Like they don't have significant like lockdown either. What did they have? Let me see. Yeah, they had Kindred, Jin, and Pantheon. And Pantheon obviously can negate a lot of the damage because he has his E, but he's already too low at this point in time. He's going to take at least 1 to 2 tower shots, which means he's going to die. They mistimed a lot of the tower bouncing, so I don't think Kindred ever actually took aggro. There's a lot of situations where I think it was mismanaged time with this, and I really do think they should have focused topside, because no matter what you do, I don't think there's ever going to be a time where I think that Perks is going to be significantly more impactful than Ghost is. Ghost 100% outplayed him in most situations in the 1v1. I mean, I think the one thing you could say is he was able to flash forward and get a 1-for-1 trade with a shutdown, but that's only because he got himself killed so many times that there was a shutdown to be had. Like, all around, I think that Yanko's also is one big thing. I mean, he traded. I think that his pathing has been so poor recently at this. Like, he's been one of the most underperforming members of this team. And because again, if we look at pretty much every single game, he's down 20 to 30 CS at any given point in time, down 2 levels. But again, he trades that because he knows the situation's happening for trying to get more proactive plays around the map, trying to trade that for more aggressive plays around the map to get his team ahead. Because again, when it comes down to it, if you get a team ahead, it doesn't matter if the individuals outclass you on the enemy team. Team comps specifically designed to be able to deal with them are gonna not. The barrier to execution is quite a bit lower. Like the amount of skill you have to be able to execute a comp pretty decently well is a lot lower when you have the gold income in comparison to the enemy team. They always, like, I will say that I did think that their picks were not the big problem. Again, I think there was a few unfortunate things like the Caps Akali getting the Mountain Drake soul on side of Damwon with a Lulu, and like just so much lockdown in the enemy team. There was nothing Caps could do. I don't want to rag on Caps too much. I think that was an impossible game. But all around, I mean, if you look at the fight he had in Dragon Pit, Baron Pit specifically in the early game, he straight up just missed his shuriken and was not able to do anything besides auto attack and throw out a few Qs. Like, I do think there was a lot of mechanical misplays that Caps did actually make, but I think that all comes down to the fact that there was so much pressure on the side of Showmaker that there wasn't much he was able to do. Like, all around, they were, I would say, all individually outclassed, besides what I would say is Mickey X in a few games. But even then, I think Barrow was still significantly better than him. I think what they do actually do, what I do want to give credit to G2, I think as a team, in terms of just pressure in the early game, they're so good at that. They know exactly how to play. They don't play specific ways comps are designed. They're not by the books like Damwon is. They 100% make a comp happen, and they try and play the game in a way that is something you wouldn't expect. And I think that's one of the biggest strengths of EU is their adaptability, their ability to kind of play in a way that isn't supposed to be able to work, and they're still able to make it happen. Like I would say with Fnatic against Top, like I think that all around they with Fnatic versus Top, I think that they were substantially outclassed inside of the mid lane, but instead of doing that, they were able to get a bunch of Galio games and all that stuff. And Galio was significantly impactful, regardless of the damage, or regardless of your ability to play, because again, it all forces it come down to like just purely team play at that point. Like the team aspect of Europe, I think, is by far the best. I think as a team, they are the single individually best region out, like pretty much probably the world. They know how to play properly as a team. They just don't have the talent the top 2 regions have. They just don't have the players that they have, but they know how to play around the map properly. And that is what keeps them in line with the rest of the regions. That's what keeps them in competition with them. What keeps them as the slightly behind third region is the fact that they just know how to play the game properly. They are the fastest to adapt. Like pretty much since like season 5, from what I can remember, they've always been the fastest to adapt to like pretty much all of the things that have been happening around the world. Like they're always the first ones to make things happen. They're always the first regions to try things out, and I really do respect them for that. But it all not only was there a lot of individual outplays inside of Showmaker and all that stuff side, I think that like if we look at game 4, I think they just gave up at that point in time. There's no reason that there shouldn't have been at least one person. Like he went through 4 turrets. Like that's absolutely unacceptable. Like Damwon set up. There should have been a point in time if you're giving up a Shelly charge 18 or 17 minutes into the game on a Nexus, inhib turret. That's just incredible to me. Then they actually didn't go around to like, again, Shelly was at 300 HP. I think that it would have taken 1 to 2 abilities to be able to kill her. But again, I think there was a lot of like there was a lot of, instead of trying to kill Shelly, there was a lot of tries to pick off the enemy team of Damwon, and that was the big problem here. They should have killed him off. I mean, I just like the comps specifically, they played them exactly how you would expect them to, and there's nothing you can do about it because the individual talent of this team is just too high to be able to punish it. Like I think that's probably why most people came in to this world's expecting them to win. But the fashion in which they've actually dominated what I would say is one of the best teams in the world is actually incredible. Like their ability to kind of just when they get the ball rolling, there's nothing you could do. You don't expect that to happen against G2. I mean, G2 is usually the team that's able to bounce back from pretty much anything, but I think in this given situation, like I think that it wasn't specifically a misplay on G2. This is really what I expected from them. Like they really came into this game, they came with a plan, and they had a lot of unique picks that I think could have worked. But all around, like individual outplays on top of the fact that there was a lot of mistimed things happening around the map. There was a lot of cohesion that seemed to be lacking around the teams. Like I think this G2 roster can work. I think that I really do feel bad for Perks. I mean, as a person, and I think he's probably the leader of this team, which is as to why they're able to bounce back mentally from a lot of these things. Like, he is the emotional leader of this team. He is probably, from what I can see, basically. I don't actually know. If we want to see this G2 roster actually be able to bounce back, I think we're gonna have to see a little bit more roster changes, though. I think that Perks has really struggled a lot with the traditional ADCs, and that's always been a problem with this. He's able to play Lucian, Ezreal, and Zion. I think those are all ability-based ADCs that I think he's good at. But again, in terms of positioning, in terms of all these things, in terms of just realizing that he is not the person that needs to try and go in and kill somebody and then get out, because that's just not how ADCs work. He really doesn't understand the base aspect of ADC, and I think that's why they're going to be struggling so much. Like, it really does. It really doesn't. Not something I want to say. Obviously, Perks is still a talented mid laner, but he's not playing mid lane right now, and I don't think he's better than Caps either. Like, I think all around, I would say, like, at this point in time, if Caps is staying on the team, I don't really see anything besides a coaching position for Perks, unless he maybe swaps to a different role and is able to play that one instead, because his ADC is just lackluster in comparison to the international competition. Like, I think that's pretty much it, though. I really would like to see some more, like, I don't know. Like, I really can't blame, like, they really did know exactly what was the proper way to punish Damwon. Like, they really did approach it. I can't really say anything. Like, I have no problems with the way they approached it. There was a lot of mistimed things, but for the most part, they really did know what to do. They really did attempt to do the proper things against Damwon. Damwon just did not let them into the game. Damwon 100% punished every single... They reacted to everything properly. They were always on, like, reading them like a book. Game 1 and 4, they knew exactly where they're going to be at, and they reacted to it properly. Like, I don't know. I mean, I expect this G2 to be able to bounce back. I do expect them to still be the best team in Europe, but I would like to see, at the very least, I'd like to see some, like, if the meta doesn't shift to more ability-based ADCs or the ability to play mages in the bot lane, I think he should be shifted out and be able to keep him in the back pocket just in case the meta does actually shift to something I would say he's more comfortable with. Because as it stands right now, I don't think he is, he's one of the most beneficial team members to have. Jankos, again, if Jankos was on form, I think they would have won their group. 100%, he has been the biggest disappointment on this team, though. Because, again, I expected this from Perks. Jankos, for the most part, has been underwhelming this entire season. He's the reason that G2's identity is shifted to this early game kind of centric like team is because he exists. He's one of the most dominant Western junglers, probably the most dominant Western jungler we've ever had. And it really does seem like he's been lackluster this season, so I'd really like to see a bounce back from him. Mickey X, again, had one poor game, I think. I would say Mickey X did actually underperform in game 3. I do think that he got caught out a little too much, but it seemed like there was a miscommunication on setting up vision beforehand, which obviously is not only his job. Like, all around, I think that he should have been a lot more careful. But it does, again, he was really able to, like, for the most part, during this entirety of this Worlds, he was probably one of the best members of this team. So I really do want to give him some slack. I think that this game 2, specifically. I mean, game three specifically was bad, but for the most part, I think he was good in everything else. I think he was good in a lot of the rest of the games. But that's pretty much it. I'd like to like I do really hope that they don't change the roster honestly because I do like Perks a lot. But I think that international success is probably the priority for them because they're gonna win Europe. This roster is too talented not to win Europe every single season. So if they want to see international success, I do think a shift in the ADC rule is the best idea. And again, no, Wonder 100% was outplayed. I do think there was a big gap, but I don't think there's a top laner inside of Europe that can handle the top lanes better because even when he was losing, he was able to be a significant impact on the team. Like I do want to touch on him a little bit. I mean, I think that this is the best. I really don't think unless you're going to import somebody, you really should shift out Wonder. Like everybody else is in pretty good shape. But that's pretty much it. I would like to see some roster. I would like to see some roster changes, honestly, as much as I do like Perks, and that's like all I can say to that. If he is the shot caller though, I don't know if that's a good idea. I do think it's Yankos. Yankos does seem to be the driving force in the early game, so we'll see what happens. I mean, that's pretty much the entirety of what I say would be the problem with that series. I do think G2 approached it properly. There's just not much they could do. So yeah.